Games having sequels is the biggest risk to take if you're a gaming company, but when done well, could make the game develop into a successful series. But what if it took a turn for the worst? What if it went from one of the most successful sequels of all time, all the way to a game that would bury the franchise from any further success? Well, what if I told you in 6 months, a franchise went from being an amazing sequel to a third game where in the past 24 hours, 320 people have played it? Ladies and gentlemen, I present the Sad Downfall of Payday 3. Chapter 1. The Beginning. After being published on October 18th in 2011, Overkill Software's Payday, The Heist was given mixed reviews, being an interesting concept with gameplay that would definitely need some improvement. Fast forward to August of 2013, where Overkill published the long-awaited sequel to Payday in Payday 2, and it was better than most people expected. Payday 2 has received generally positive reviews from critics, with general praise from cooperative elements, but heavy criticism for the friendly AI. IGN praised its cooperative gameplay, stealth mechanics, and sound design, but was not impressed at graphical quality. Joystick was impressed at the depth of customization, level progression, and random elements. Eurogamers say that when all its clunky gear suddenly align, the result remains phenomenal, a combination of Left 4 Dead's randomly generated mayhem and the muscular precision of a hardcore shooter, topped off with the big screen version of being a smart-suited, fright-masked guy with an AK, ordering the hostages on the floor or standing in the street, holding off the SWAT team in a flurry of bullets and thunder. PC Gamer concluded that the game was a smart co-op shooting slightly undermined by poor stealth mechanics, and dogged insistence on withholding the best toys. Best to say that the game was a pleasant surprise and gained a lot of attention in the mid-2010s for being a change-of-pace game that refreshed the gaming space. While it was a great game, it would show its many flaws that proceed to lead them down a road they cannot come back from. Chapter 2. The cracks start to form. Developer Starbreeze Studios announced in May 2016 that Payday 3 was in development at Overkill Software, after Starbreeze acquired the rights to the intellectual property from 505 Games around $30 million. In March of 2021, Plaion committed to pay €50 million to assist in the game's development and marketing, including more than 18 months of post-launch support using the games as a service model. Payday 3 was developed using Unreal Engine 4, but will be upgraded to use Unreal Engine 5 post-launch. On January 1st, 2023, a teaser trailer titled A New Criminal Dawn was released, revealing its logo. In June, Overkill announced that the game was released on September 18th, 2023, for pre-orders of the Silver and Gold editions, while the Standard Edition was released on September 21st. I'm usually not excited about games before they come out, but I was very excited for the release of Payday 3. Unfortunately, the game was a complete disaster. When I opened it, I was greeted with an infinite loading screen. I went online to see if others were having the same issue, and they were. Eventually, the game led me through to a loading screen and into the main menu. I looked at an inventory and saw that the melee weapons slot was gone. Melee weapons were a huge part of Payday 2, and to see them gone was saddening. Not only that, they removed perk decks. In Payday 2, perk decks were unique skills that allowed the player to specialize into a certain playstyle. For example, if a player wanted to run around at the speed of sound, dodging and avoiding every bullet that is fired at you, then there's a perk deck for that. If you want to be in the movable tank that can eat thousands of rounds of ammunition, there's a perk for that. That whole concept has been completely removed. The only thing that this game adds are the overkill weapons. Overkill weapons are weapons you can call in after getting a certain amount of kills. These weapons are quite powerful, but these weapons added almost no value to the game. The developer took away two huge parts of Payday 2 without supplementing the cut content. I look at the start button and realize that there's no offline mode. Payday 2 could easily be played by yourself offline. If the servers are down or you want to play it solo, it takes less than 20 seconds to get into a heist. Payday 3, for reasons beyond me, has opted to do away with this in exchange for always being online. Nothing about the game functioned properly. I waited hours getting into a game and it never happened. Although the actual gameplay remained fun, the charm and comedy of Payday 2 has been greatly diminished. In Payday 2, there was a man called Bane who acted like the mastermind behind the operation. He had hundreds of memorable lines and always acted like a professional. He has been replaced by a woman called Shade, and she is a massive downgrade. She has no memorable lines, and her attempts at humor fall completely flat. They also removed enemies changing as the difficulty increases. In Payday 2, different difficulties would make the enemies more powerful in exchange for higher rewards. To signify their increasing power, they would obtain better uniforms and weaponry. The game keeps cutting content that was crucial parts of Payday 2 without adding more to justify it. This whole mess has killed the player base for the game and has left the community in shambles. Months after release, none of these issues have been fixed. Payday 3 is one of the biggest disappointments in gaming and even after being out for months, they still have not come close to fixing it. The player count is slowly withering away, and Payday 2 has been abandoned. The true heist was the $40 I spent on this game. Payday 3 received mixed or average reviews from critics. Eurogamer called it a shallow shooter that doesn't offer anyone near enough bang for your ill-gotten buck. IGN wrote that Payday 3's cooperative heists are off to a strong start, even if the vault is a bit bare at the moment. Digital Trends says that Payday 3 doesn't shake up its predecessor's formula much, but a strong batch of initial heists set the live service shooter up for success. Upon launch, the game servers failed due to the massive influx of players, making the game almost unplayable. Since the game is online only, these outages have lasted for days. Starbreeze announced that the game has attracted more than 1.3 million players at launch. While the launch itself was a major success, it proceeded to be a horrific reality for Starbreeze Studios. Chapter 3. In conclusion, basically, the devs force you to play it their way, ignoring every other playstyle and thought forcing you to play every gun and style would make you happy. What does that do though? Just makes it miserable for people who don't care about a specific weapon or map. But that doesn't matter if you want to level up. And the fact that they seem to value every other aspect about the game other than valuable loot you're stealing is terrible. By God, people give Crime Boss a bad rep, but I'll be honest, Crime Boss Rock K City is 10 times more fun than Payday 3 ever was for me. I found it far more replayable and enjoyable. Kind of like comparing apples to oranges since that's a roguelike, but they released more content than Payday 3 ever had. Which is quite sad if you think about that. When I heard online only, that was my first red flag. Wish I listened, but I gave it a chance still, hoping they would listen to the community and fix things over time. Instead, it's been almost half a year and we're still left radio silent on basic QoL updates requested from day one and still no sight of those fixes. How else do you expect to react when it's been this long and virtually no problems whatsoever have been addressed from launch? Like none at all. Name one. Chat and that's it, and even that's half broken right now and poorly implemented. How else was this going to go with that kind of response and update time, making the game doomed from the start? When it comes to video games, especially with sequels, the first week is the most important week of everything involved. The first week typically sees a surge in sales as eager fans who have been anticipating the sequel rush to purchase the game, as well as reviews can come out mere hours after the game has been released, which if are positive, could bring in even more people that might be skeptical about buying the game. Building momentum early on can help sustain interest in the game over a long term. A successful launch can lead to continued sales and engagement as developers release updates, expansions, or DLC. And strong initial sales can encourage retailers to increase shelf space and promotional efforts for the game, making it more visible to potential buyers. This can further boost sales and help the game reach a wider audience. What seemed to be an excited company working on a great sequel to Overkill Software's masterpiece turned into a corporate greed-filled nightmare for every gamer that had purchased this game had to endure, which ended up killing the franchise. Unfortunately for a lot of these companies, this happens, especially with sequels, where a lot of greed goes into it because they think they can push out the same product and get away with it. While unfortunately some companies get away with it, the majority of them don't. But not with the Payday community, which felt heartbroken that they decided to take the great game that was Payday 2 and just run it into the ground. It's unfortunate to see how Payday ended up, but maybe there can be a resurgence. But for the most part, I think that the game is dead. But with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell for future notifications. And let me know if you ever played Payday, what was your favorite moment on it? Because this was one of those games where it's really interesting to see how it went from this not so great game to the greatest rebound of all time down back to the ground. It's really interesting doing the research for this. And I want to know if you guys have similar opinions on Payday. Other than that, I will see you guys later. Peace.